My name was Amina. I was a devoted nurse, navigating the chaotic realm of an urban ICU in London. I wore my hijab with pride, projecting strength to cover the deep emptiness within. Respected by colleagues yet shackled by familial expectations, I carried the weight of a religion that demanded unwavering faith. But beneath the sterile lights, surrounded by suffering, my heart ached for answers beyond the prayers I recited. Late one night, after an exhausting shift, everything changed. An unforeseen accident plunged me into darkness, and in the depths of that void, I encountered him, Jesus. Here was a light so radiant it eclipsed the shadows of my doubts, a voice calling my name with a tenderness I had never known. I realized in that moment that my life was not merely a series of rituals, but a canvas awaiting the brush of divine revelation. What I experienced was not just a near-death experience. It was an awakening to a profound truth that transcended the confines of my upbringing. The walls of my faith began to crumble, revealing the harsh reality of a system that suffocated the spirit. I returned to my world, hostile, frightened, and yet ignited with a fresh purpose. I had to choose: remain hidden in the shadows of expectation, or embrace this newfound light that illuminated my path. In the days that followed, I faced the relentless confrontation of family and community. Becoming a pariah, I ventured into the forbidden, secretly exploring the Bible, daring to commune with Jesus in prayer. Each whispered request, each trembling confession, pushed the chains of fear from my soul. I discovered a peace that rivaled my previous devotion, an exhilarating freedom that promised restoration. Now, I feel called to share my journey, to illuminate the hearts of those who suffer under the weight of oppressive beliefs. I know there are others who hear the whispers of truth amidst the noise. Are you one of them? As we dive deeper today, I invite you to engage with me. Leave a comment below and share where you're watching from. What time is it in your corner of the world? And if you feel the tug of your own spiritual awakening, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Together, let's explore the transformative power of love that breaks every chain and reveals the freedom waiting for us all. In the bustling ward of an urban London hospital, my life as a nurse unfolded amidst a vibrant tapestry of cultural and religious diversity. My name is Amina, a dedicated Muslim nurse fully immersed in the rhythms of the ICU. The atmosphere around me was charged with the weight of suffering and the urgency of life and death decisions. Colleagues of various beliefs surrounded me, each of us caught in our own quests for meaning in the face of adversity. As I worked tirelessly, I couldn't help but notice the spiritual tensions playing out in the lives of patients and staff alike. Yet, within my heart, an unsettling void remained, pushing me to question the very essence of my faith. Every day began with the same prayers, recited mechanically, while I struggled with the growing disconnection I felt from my long-held beliefs. As I rushed from one patient to another, I often wondered about the deeper truths that lay hidden beneath the surface of our religions. I loved my work and cared deeply for my patients, but a nagging feeling haunted me. It was the realization that the religious dogmas I had embraced could be limiting, perhaps even a form of deception. I felt trapped in a system that rewarded obedience but stifled inquiry. The spiritual war within me grew more intense as I battled the call of conformity against the urge to seek something more profound. One fateful day, after a particularly exhausting shift, I fell asleep in the break room. What happened next would change everything. I slipped into a deep, vivid dream where darkness surrounded me, and I felt an inexplicable heaviness bearing down upon me. In that moment, I faced an ethereal void, unsure of my existence. Suddenly, out of this darkness, a profound light burst forth, revealing Jesus standing before me. His presence was overwhelming, radiating peace and acceptance. As he called my name, I felt my spirit awaken, a feeling that was both terrifying and exhilarating. Jesus spoke of the hidden agendas that manipulate hearts and minds, explaining how the elite create divisions among us. I was shown the layers of deception that warped our understanding of faith, leading many to lose their way in the pursuit of power. He unveiled the spiritual war being waged, highlighting how so many, including myself, were entangled in systems designed to suppress truth and promote fear. Each revelation pierced through the fog of ignorance, reminding me that our reality often masks a deeper truth waiting to be revealed. As I emerged from that encounter, the intensity of the experience left me shaken. I woke not just from sleep, but from a spiritual slumber I had been trapped in for years. The confusion that once clouded my mind started to lift, leaving a renewed sense of purpose. The transformative power of that revelation beckoned me to share what I had learned, to speak out against the deception that permeated our beliefs and practices. I realized that my journey wasn't just for me. It was an awakening that had the potential to ignite change in others, still bound by dogma. As I prepared to face the challenges ahead, the urgency to communicate this truth was palpable, and I knew I had to step boldly into the light, ready to embrace a mission steeped in love and authenticity. At 32 years old, I've made a name for myself as a respected nurse in a bustling urban hospital. My name is Amina, and I was raised as the daughter of an imam in a devout family where expectations are as rigid as the traditions we uphold. My life revolved around duties, serving my community, offering my unwavering support to those in need, and carrying the weight of my family's legacy on my shoulders. To those outside, I appeared composed and dedicated, my hijab perfectly arranged to symbolize my allegiance to faith and family. Yet, beneath that exterior lay an unsettling void, one that echoed my struggles with faith and identity. For years, I conformed to the role set before me, but inside, I felt a growing discontent, a whispering doubt that became louder, more persistent. Each prayer seemed to resonate less, the words becoming hollow echoes against the backdrop of my heart's turmoil. The fear of questioning my beliefs weighed heavily on my mind, as it did for many in my community. I had been conditioned to believe that doubt was synonymous with betrayal, that any sign of wavering would lead to condemnation and isolation. Yet even amidst this fear, I was tormented by the need for something deeper, a truth that transcended the confines of what I had been taught. Then, everything changed one fateful night as I rushed through the hospital. A severe accident struck, leaving me unconscious in the ICU. In that liminal state between life and death, I found myself in a place that mirrored a battlefield of light and shadow, a cosmic reflection of the spiritual war that raged within me. There, in the depths of darkness, a soft glow emerged, and I was met with the brilliant figure of Jesus. His eyes held an ancient wisdom that pierced through my fears and confusion, inviting me into a sacred space of revelation. As Jesus began to speak, time seemed to stretch infinitely, and his words unraveled the tightly woven fabric of my understanding. He revealed how the hidden agendas of the elite had subverted our spiritual teachings, using deception as a means of control. I saw the manipulation of faith as a tool to maintain division among people, to foster fear instead of love. Each truth he shared, the reality of societal structures built on fear and misunderstanding, the blatant deception that clouded our understanding of God, felt like a call to arms against the oppression I had never consciously recognized. In that transcendent moment, I learned that my journey had a purpose. This awakening was not just for me. It was a responsibility to confront the very beliefs that had held me hostage. As I returned to consciousness, the light began to fade, but the urgency of my experience lingered. I knew that I couldn't go back to the life I'd lived without sharing this truth. There was an awakening in my soul, and the call to evangelize became my mission. I felt an overwhelming compulsion to speak out, revealing what I had learned, no matter the cost. knowing that the battle for truth was as vital as the breath in my lungs. Signs of doubt and spiritual conflict began to emerge in me as I navigated my life as a nurse. My name is Amina, and while I'm respected among colleagues and loved by my family, a growing emptiness haunted my prayers. Each time I stood in quiet reflection, reciting the same verses I had committed to memory, it felt as though something vital was missing. The routine that once brought me peace became a hollow echo, a mere performance devoid of the connection I yearned for. I was struggling with the essence of my faith, questioning everything I had held dear. As these doubts swirled in my mind, I became increasingly aware of a tension that pulled at my spirit. My dreams were haunted by visions of a luminous being in a vast desert, a figure that seemed to beckon me toward a truth I couldn't quite grasp. Each night, I found myself standing in that endless expanse, the warmth of the light contrasting sharply with the cold shadows that lingered in my heart. These dreams left me feeling both terrified and exhilarated, ensnaring me in a web of fear about revealing my internal struggles to those around me. I felt isolated, caught between the expectations of my family and the stirring in my soul, fearing that any sign of doubt would lead to condemnation. The more I resisted confronting these feelings, the stronger they became. I was a daughter of an imam, raised to believe that faith should be unwavering, yet I felt like a fraud. Every day, as I walked through the hospital, caring for my patients, I reflected on my own suffering. I'd watch them wrestle with fear and uncertainty, and in their faces, I saw my own growing discontent mirrored back at me. How could I profess a faith filled with love when my heart felt so empty? The spiritual war inside me vacillated between the desire for acceptance and the desperate need to seek the truth. Then came the day that shifted everything. After a particularly taxing shift, I collapsed in the break room, overwhelmed by fatigue and emotion. Instead of darkness, I was thrust into a vivid experience, a near-death moment where I stepped into the light. There, I met Jesus. His presence brought a sense of peace I had never known, and as he spoke, the chaos of my thoughts began to settle. He revealed the hidden agendas of the elite, the ways in which power was manipulated to cultivate division and to stifle the very essence of our humanity. It was a revelation that stripped away the layers of deception I had unknowingly accepted, exposing the truth of our shared existence. In that instant, I understood that I had to reconcile the conflict within me. Jesus showed me the beauty of authentic connection, the importance of love and compassion over blind adherence to tradition. I realized that my awakening was not an end but a beginning, an invitation to step into the light and embrace a new mission. While the path ahead might be fraught with danger and rejection from those I held dear, the urgency to share this truth compelled me to rise. I felt empowered to confront the spiritual war we all faced, motivated to help others navigate their own journeys towards awakening. As I prepared for the challenges to come, I knew I had to carry forth this message of hope, no matter the cost. I was ready to fight for the truth, to illuminate the way for others who still wandered in darkness. A turning point arrived during a particularly grueling night shift in the ICU. I'm Amina, a nurse deeply invested in my work, yet that evening felt different. I remember the chaotic atmosphere swirling around me, monitors beeping, busy colleagues rushing, the scent of antiseptic permeating the air. But as the hours dragged on, fatigue settled like an unwelcome blanket. Little did I know that what lay ahead would alter the course of my life forever. Suddenly, everything changed. A wave of dizziness overwhelmed me, and I collapsed, slipping into darkness. In that unconscious state, I found myself transported to a vast and desolate desert. It felt surreal, as though I had entered another realm. The eeriness of the landscape was stark, with nothing but sand stretching endlessly in every direction. I felt both fear and a strange pull, an invisible cord binding me to something, some truth that awaited me. As I wandered through the dark expanse, A sense of desperation began creeping in, amplifying my anxiety. Just when I thought I might be lost forever, a radiant light broke through the darkness. It was an indescribable brilliance that filled me with warmth, urging me forward. Then I saw him, Jesus, standing before me with open arms and a gentle smile. As he called my name, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over me. There was no judgment in his eyes, only pure love and understanding, and in that moment, I was enveloped in a profound revelation of the purpose behind my suffering. Jesus began to speak, shedding light on the hidden agendas of the elite and their manipulation of faith for power. He revealed how the spiritual war we face goes beyond individual beliefs. It's a struggle against a societal system designed to keep us in deception. I witnessed the ways in which fear and division were wielded as tools to control us, blinding us to the truth that resides within each of us. Every word he spoke resonated deeply, igniting a fire within me that demanded to be shared. It became clear that the suffering I had endured had a purpose. It was a catalyst for my awakening. As I emerged from that experience, the clarity I gained felt like both a blessing and a burden. I awoke in the ICU, surrounded by familiar faces, yet everything had shifted. The revelations bestowed upon me were too powerful to contain, and I knew I had a mission: to share the truth that had been unveiled to me. I felt compelled to confront the spiritual war we all face, offering hope to those still trapped in darkness. The path ahead would undoubtedly be fraught with challenges, but the love and truth I encountered were worth any cost. With courage ignited in my heart, I prepared to step boldly into the world, ready to illuminate the way for others seeking their own awakening. Regaining consciousness after my near-death experience thrust me into a conflict I never anticipated. I'm Amina, a nurse devoted to my work and my community. But after my encounter with Jesus, everything had changed. I awoke in the ICU, disoriented and overwhelmed, grappling with the profound truth I had witnessed. The revelations about the hidden agenda of the elite manipulating our lives for their gain weighed heavily on my heart. I realized I could no longer live a life bound by fear and obedience to traditions that, instead of providing comfort, kept me shackled in spiritual blindness. But the shift in my perception came at a steep cost. As I began to share my experience with those close to me, I faced immediate hostility. Family members branded me a heretic, their expressions twisted with disdain when I mentioned my encounter with Jesus. Friends I had known for years looked at me with suspicion, whispering behind my back, questioning my sanity. The sense of isolation that crept in was suffocating. I felt as if I was standing at the edge of a chasm, gazing down into the abyss of rejection and judgment. The guilt of possibly hurting my family by expressing my newfound beliefs gnawed at me. I had been raised to regard questioning faith as an act of betrayal, yet my heart begged to be free. Amidst this turmoil, I experienced a deep awakening. The spiritual freedom Jesus granted me felt exhilarating, yet terrifying. With each passing day, I felt an undeniable urge to seek answers, to explore truths I had previously dismissed. My previously routine prayers transformed into heartfelt conversations, raw and vulnerable dialogues with God, tapping into a connection I had only ever dreamed of. I found solace in community gatherings of others who had walked similar paths, exchanging insights and truths that money could never buy. Through these interactions, I learned to embrace the tension between fear and the exhilarating pursuit of truth. However, the burden of being cast out still lingered. I could sense the walls closing in, with my family's disappointment looming large. I wanted so desperately to share the love and acceptance I had found, to offer them the same transformative experience. But I was met with closed doors and hardened hearts. My father, an esteemed imam, had devoted his life to our traditions, and I could feel the disappointment in his gaze each time he looked at me. The weight of those expectations felt like chains constricting my spirit, threatening to pull me back into the quiet darkness I had just escaped. In the depths of my struggle, Jesus' words continued to resonate within me. The truths he revealed during our encounter echoed deep into my soul, reminding me of the purpose behind my awakening. I felt called to confront the deception that enshrouded our lives, not just for myself, but for others caught in the same web of fear. I began to see the urgency of my mission. The spiritual war being fought was not only personal but global, affecting communities everywhere. In my heart, I knew I had to muster the courage to speak out, to illuminate a path for others still ensnared in the darkness, no matter the cost. I was prepared to embrace this challenge, for I believed in the transformative power of truth and the boundless love that it could bring. My secret quest for truth led me down a path I never expected to take. As I continued to grapple with my spiritual unrest, I began searching for answers online, and that's when I stumbled upon support groups for people who, like me, felt trapped between two worlds. Each testimony I read struck a chord in my heart. It was both comforting and alarming to discover that others had faced similar disillusionments, questioning the same traditions that had shaped my existence. In those virtual spaces, I found a sense of community and solidarity. We shared stories of doubt, awakening, and the powerful moment of confronting the hidden agendas that had manipulated our beliefs for so long. Every interaction in those online forums rekindled a flicker of hope within me. I wasn't alone in my struggle. There were others willing to confront the spiritual war waging in their hearts. The more I read, the more determined I became to seek out the truth I felt so urgently. I felt invigorated, filled with a sense of purpose. Yet, the fear of exposing my journey to my family and community loomed large, overshadowing my newfound peace. What if they could never understand? What if I lost them forever? Despite this fear, I began praying to Jesus in my quiet moments. Each prayer was a step toward healing, a declaration of my desire to embrace the truth. I remember sitting in my room, the soft glow of a candle flickering in the dark, feeling the weight of my past lifting. As I poured out my heart, I could sense a connection forming, a warmth enveloping me, filling the void that had long been present. It was as if Jesus was reassuring me that my journey was not just valid, but essential. The burden I had carried for so long started to feel lighter as faith intertwined with hope. In my prayers, I sought answers to questions that had haunted me for years. I asked for guidance in navigating this transformative journey, yearning to understand not just the why, but the how. I sensed that awakening would require courage, a willingness to face the fear of losing everything I had known. The thought of walking away from the faith I had been raised in brought both trepidation and excitement. Would I be brave enough to embrace the truth, even if it meant stepping into the unknown? The more I engaged in prayer, the more revelations began to unfold. I felt a profound connection to the struggles facing humanity, the division, the manipulation, and the ultimate deception that sought to keep us shackled to ignorance. As I prepared to share my newfound beliefs with the group and eventually the world, I was filled with a sense of urgency that intensified. I realized this was not just about my awakening. It was about rallying others to join the fight against the hidden forces that sought to suppress us. With each new understanding, I felt emboldened to finally speak my truth and embrace my mission, to illuminate the path for others still lost in darkness. As I embraced my transformative journey, the moments of revelation I experienced began to crystallize into something profound. I realized that sharing my story was no longer optional. It was a calling, a compelling urge that demanded my voice be heard. My name is Amina, and as a nurse in the ICU, I had witnessed untold suffering. Each patient's face reminded me of the battles we all fight, often hidden behind a facade of strength. The truths I discovered during my awakening felt like a lifeline to those who remained entrapped in their own spiritual struggles. While I had grappling with the internal conflict of leaving my Islamic faith behind, I found my connection to Jesus became the foundation of my newfound identity. This connection brought clarity to the hidden agenda of the elite that manipulates faith and society. I began to understand the spiritual war playing out not just within my heart, but across communities worldwide. Jesus revealed how the messages we were fed could distort our understanding, leading to division and despair. I knew I had to speak out against the deception that had clouded my vision for so long. Determined, I took deliberate steps toward voicing my truths. I gathered with other like-minded individuals who had also endured the weight of their beliefs crashing down. Sharing our stories ignited a fire within me, reminding us all that we were not alone. I found solace in their struggles and strength in our collective desire for authenticity. As we openly discussed the barriers we faced, the tension in the air shifted. It was as if the weight of our shared experiences began to lift, allowing room for hope and awakening. However, I couldn't shake the fear of retribution that lingered in my mind. Conversations with my family had become fraught with tension, each discussion amplifying the fears of rejection and shame. Breaking the silence felt like standing on the edge of a precipice, knowing that a leap could lead to liberation or isolation. I yearned for my family to understand that my journey was not intended to alienate them, but to invite them to explore the same truths I had come to embrace. Yet the chasm between our beliefs felt insurmountable, leaving me with a sense of urgency to act before it was too late. Every day in my work as a nurse, I noticed the struggles of those around me. Individuals caught in the web of societal expectations, patients braving their own battles for survival. I felt it was essential to share the love and truth I had found, to bring Jesus' message of hope into a world filled with suffering. I envisioned a future where awakening and understanding could redefine how we interact with one another, challenging the narratives that keep us apart. With each passing moment, the mission crystallized in my heart. I knew I had to raise my voice, not just for myself, but for every soul yearning for a glimpse of truth amidst the profound deception. The journey I had embarked on was one of purpose, and I was ready to take the next step. A powerful climax arrived in my life when I finally confronted my family, the moment where I stood tall against the whispers of doubt that clung to me like a veil. My name is Amina, and after much internal struggle, I felt compelled to proclaim my newfound faith. As I gathered the courage to speak my truth, my heart raced with a mix of fear and determination. The home that had once been a source of comfort now felt like a prison, a shelter holding me back from the calling that Jesus had awakened within me. I had been raised to adhere to our traditions, but the insights I had gained, revelations that pierced through the deception surrounding my existence, propelled me toward this pivotal moment. When I finally shared my awakening with my family, I felt an immediate tension crackle in the air. Their reaction was not what I had hoped for. Disappointment and disbelief filled their eyes. My father, an esteemed imam, looked at me with a mixture of sorrow and fear, as if I were announcing that I had chosen to walk off a cliff. The words that had once connected us now separated us, and it hurt deeply. I felt the burden of my heritage pressing down on me, but I knew I had to make this break. My commitment to a new life, to a truth that was liberating rather than confining, demanded courage I hadn't known I possessed. Leaving my home that day was a symbolic act, a break from the chains that had held me captive for so long. I stepped out into the world that awaited me, a world where I could embrace the calling of evangelism quietly within my community. The thought of living my faith openly possessed an exhilarating sense of freedom. Yet I knew the journey would not be easy. There would be whispers about my departure from Islamic practices, and the fear of backlash hung over me like a storm cloud. Still, I felt an inner peace that I hadn't experienced before, knowing I was on the path that Jesus had illuminated for me. As I ventured into this new chapter, I began to share my story with those who were curious. I approached conversations with hesitation at first, testing the waters of acceptance with fellow nurses and patients. The more I opened up about my transformation, the more I felt invigorated. I realized that others were also wrestling with their beliefs, caught in the same spiritual war I had fought alone for so long. Together, we explored the complexities of faith and the hidden agendas behind the elite who sought to maintain control over the narratives we accepted. In this newfound light, I felt emboldened to continue my mission. Each conversation served as an opportunity to spread hope and truth to those around me. I understood that the revelation I received wasn't just for my own awakening. It was a calling to help others navigate their own paths toward spiritual freedom. The illusion of separation began to fade as I encouraged those I met to consider the truths I had discovered. The love that Jesus offers, the understanding that transcends fear and deception. The journey ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty, but I resolved to face it with faith, armed with the knowledge that my voice held the power to effect change in a world in desperate need of awakening. The narrative reaches its conclusion as I step into a new chapter of my life. One, fueled by the promise of spiritual freedom. My name is Amina, and the journey I've embarked on since my encounter with Jesus is unlike anything I could have ever imagined. Leaving the confines of my Islamic faith was more than just a personal decision. It was an awakening to the truth that resonates with every part of my being. In the hospital, amidst the struggles of my patients and the complexity of life's fragile moments, I found not just purpose, but also a new mission: to share this wisdom and offer hope to those searching for liberation. Every day brings opportunities to connect with others who yearn for understanding. I've created small circles of support where people can share their doubts openly, unburdening themselves from the weight of deception they've carried for too long. I'm amazed by the number of individuals drawn to these discussions. People who feel suffocated by the dogma that had been instilled in them since childhood. Each story shared in those circles enhances my resolve. I see the spiritual war raging, not just within my heart, but in the hearts of many. We are all seeking the same truth, the same light, and together, we can illuminate the path toward awakening. Conversations often turn to the hidden agendas that manipulate our lives, the elite who thrive on division and control. I remind those around me that this deception is not merely a political issue, but a spiritual one. A wound that affects our ability to connect with the divine and one another. As we delve into these complex topics, I can feel the weight lifting off their shoulders. The realization that we are not alone in our struggles brings a sense of camaraderie. Jesus' message of love and acceptance flows through our discussions, encouraging us to embrace our unique journeys toward faith. But with this newfound strength comes a reminder of the cost. As I become a quiet force for change, my heart still aches for my family. They remain entrenched in their beliefs, unable to grasp the liberation I've found. I ponder how I can bridge the gap, how I might help them understand that my journey doesn't diminish my love for them. I pray diligently for their hearts to open, knowing that the awakening I experienced could also be theirs, if only they would allow themselves to question the things they've held sacred. Every interaction I have is tinged with urgency, to share the truth and inspire awakening. The world feels charged with a sense of hope amidst the chaos, and as I walk this path of evangelism, I feel the pull of a greater purpose. The hospital where I work is more than just a place of healing. It's become a sanctuary where spiritual conversations can flourish, and where I can be a voice for those longing to break free from the grip of deception. This journey is ongoing, and as I connect with others, I get closer to understanding my own truth, encouraging them to seek the divine light that awaits beyond the shroud of fear. Each day holds the promise of Transformation, both for me and those I encounter, inviting us all to step into the light of awakening together. In a poignant epilogue years later, I find myself in a new country, a landscape that still feels foreign, yet oddly comforting. My name is Amina, and the journey I've taken since leaving my former life as a dedicated Muslim nurse has transformed me in ways I never could have imagined. I've become an activist for religious freedom, advocating for those who, like me, have felt the suffocating grasp of oppressive religious norms. The spiritual war that once raged within me has now expanded to embrace a community in desperate need of truth and understanding. Each day is a testament to the power of awakening, both for myself and for others, seeking liberation from the chains of tradition. The memories of my life before feel like distant echoes, haunted by the pain of separation from my family. I often reflect on the day I left, the mixed emotions of defiance and fear that accompanied my decision. Despite the sorrow of alienation, I recall the profound moment when I encountered Jesus in my near-death experience, where he unveiled the hidden agendas crafted by the elite, revealing how they manipulate faith for power and control. His truth ignited my soul, spurring me to educate others about the lies that ensnared us. Now that passion drives my work as I strive to inspire courage in those still living under the weight of fear. Within the walls of this new life, I've discovered a vibrant community of fellow seekers. Together, we share our stories in support groups, challenging the lingering deceptions that have held us hostage for so long. I watch as their eyes widen with understanding, the light of revelation dawning upon them as we discuss the tactics used by those in power to create division among us. We confront the reality of a world intertwined with violence, each discussion layered with urgency, reminding us that the fight for truth is an ongoing battle. My testimony resonates with many who seek to break free from the shackles of their upbringing, igniting a sense of solidarity and purpose. Yet in the quiet moments, the ache for my family resurfaces. I yearn to reach out, to show them the depth of love and truth I have found. But I remain haunted by the fear of rejection. I know the risks involved. They might view my journey through a lens of betrayal. My father's disappointment looms heavy over my heart, a constant reminder of what I once held dear. I pray for reconciliation, for the day when they might understand that my path doesn't diminish my love for them, but rather expands my understanding of God's grace. As I speak truth to power, I remain motivated by the knowledge that my work has the potential to change lives. Each person I touch, each story I hear, becomes a thread woven into the larger tapestry of our shared awakening. The spiritual war rages on, but now I stand fortified, ready to fight against the forces that oppress the spirit. I hold out hope that one day, those I left behind will embark on their own journeys toward freedom. As I continue this mission, I'm reminded that every struggle faced is not solely mine, but a shared experience, pushing us toward a collective emergence from darkness